I was a rising star in the sports world, having won many medals in men's gymnastics, and my future looked very promising. But when I heard that Olivia wanted me to retire from the sport and marry her, I gave up my very important sports career without hesitation. Because Olivia said she didn't want children, and I really like children, I chose to go to the hospital and get a vasectomy. But on our wedding anniversary, she actually asked me to donate bone marrow to Ethan's child. After I had donated my bone marrow and was lying weak in the hospital bed, she was celebrating Ethan's victory in his gymnastics competition with him. A mysterious recording made me realize that all my feelings for her over the years had been in vain. Olivia was stunned when she came to pick me up and saw the divorce papers I had left on the hospital bed. But there really was no future for us. On the anniversary of our marriage with Olivia, I took leave early and left work early. Now I have a pretty easy job with no urgent tasks, so I have a lot of time to spend with Olivia. First I put the flowers I bought in water, so they can absorb the water. Then I put on an apron and start preparing the food. The flowers are Olivia's favorite perfume lilies, just delivered from the flower fields in California, with dew still on the petals. Her favorite dish is squirrel-like mandarin fish, which requires a high level of culinary skill. I learned it from a master chef for 3 months. The sound of sports news comes from my phone. Although I have already chosen to retire, I still habitually pay attention to these news. While filleting the fish, Olivia called. My heart tightened, and I quickly answered the phone. Olivia said discontentedly on the other end, "Liam, why are you so slow answering the phone? Hurry up and come to the airport to pick me up. Don't dilly-dally, hurry up, I'm not patient." Looking at the pots and pans in the kitchen, I took off my apron, wiped my hands and went downstairs to get the car. It was rush hour and the traffic was terrible. While waiting at the red light, Olivia called me again. "Why are you so late?" "Liam, there's a bit of traffic." I patiently explained to him. "I don't care. Liam, I don't care what your excuse is. If you don't come, we'll get a divorce." Olivia always likes to mention divorce, and every time I have to apologize desperately to make her happy. After I finally found a parking space after a lot of trouble, I hurried to the airport, afraid that Olivia would be angry again. From a distance, I saw her chatting happily with the man beside her, and a 3-year-old boy holding his hand. I was dumbfounded. Usually cold and distant, Olivia had such a warm side. We had been married for 3 years, and she had always been like an ice cube that I could never melt, but now she was suddenly as warm as the spring breeze. I walked quickly over to her and took the 2 bags she was holding. "Olivia, this bag is heavy, let me take it, don't let you get tired." The moment Olivia saw my face, she immediately returned to her cold and distant manner. She forcefully shook my hand, which was trying to take the bags, and said coldly, "Don't touch. These are Ethan and Leo's things. If they get damaged, you can't afford it." I retracted my hand a little awkwardly, trying to ease the atmosphere, so I took the initiative to introduce myself. "Hello, my name is Liam, I'm Olivia's." Before I could finish, Olivia interrupted, "Ethan, he's my nanny." Then she crouched down and stroked Leo's head, saying gently to him, "Leo, don't be afraid, Mommy will always be with you." It was only then that I noticed that the seemingly frail little boy had been holding Olivia's hand tightly the whole time. He kept staring at me with an almost hostile gaze, his eyes full of vigilance like those of a small animal. The man next to Olivia stroked her hair gently. I worried that Leo might be uncomfortable after being there for so long. There was something about the way she said it that I had never heard in the 6 years of our marriage. She turned her head and said to me in a very formal tone, "Liam, Leo is very sick and needs a bone marrow transplant to survive. I checked your bone marrow type against his in advance, and since you were an athlete and in good health, I hope you can donate some of your bone marrow to him." After hearing this, I understood why Olivia had suddenly become concerned about my health some time ago. At that time, I was really touched. It turned out that the reason for the full body checkup at the hospital was for this little boy. At this time, Ethan walked over and shook my extended hand. They shook hands symbolically and then let go. He said, "Hello, Liam, I'm Ethan, a gymnast, you should know me." He deliberately emphasized the title of gymnast, which made me a little stunned. Although I retired not long ago, the sports world has become very different, with a new generation of athletes emerging. I saw his provocative eyes, and suddenly I remembered that when I won the championship, he was just an unknown substitute in the corner. Now he has become a new star in the sports world, radiating a dazzling light and making a deep impression. In fact, after I chose to keep Olivia away from the spotlight, I also fell silent for a long time. With a little helplessness and a hint of bitterness in my heart, I smiled. "Liam, are you still in a daze?" Everyone is waiting for you, Olivia said unhappily. I snapped out of it and got them into the car. The three of them sat in the back, looking happy, while I felt a little absent. Hearing Leo affectionately call her mummy from the back made my heart ache. I actually really like children, and I have imagined countless times a happy family life with Olivia and the kids. As long as Olivia was willing to have children, she didn't need to worry about anything else. But every time I mentioned children, Olivia was particularly against it. Without thinking, I went to the hospital and had a vasectomy. Olivia, I'm really sorry about this. You know, I've been really busy lately, and I've been going to competitions everywhere. I haven't had time to take care of Leo. Ethan's voice sounded low and pleasant, but to me, it was a little harsh. After all, if I hadn't suddenly retired and married Olivia when I was at my peak, he wouldn't even have been in the running. Ethan, don't be so polite. Your business is my business. I promise you, Leonor will be fine. Olivia gently comforts Leo. Olivia is angry with me again when I come home and see the kitchen in a mess. She says, Liam, how many times have I told you to keep the house clean at all times? Look at you, you're so sloppy. At this, Leo runs over and, while swinging her around, asks sweetly, Mummy, which room are Daddy and I going to live in? She immediately gave him a gentle smile and replied, Leo, you and Daddy will live in the biggest and most beautiful room, okay? You go find Daddy first. I glanced at her and saw that the biggest room in the house was the master bedroom. Don't look at me like that. Leo is sick, and you're a grown man. Why are you so petty? Olivia rolled her eyes at me and said, Hurry up and cook dinner. If the kids get hungry, I won't let you off the hook easily. The joyous moment of celebrating our wedding anniversary was suddenly interrupted by an unexpected accident. I made dinner listlessly and watched the three of them eat noisily at the table. Leo refused to eat unless Olivia fed him bite by bite, while Ethan busied himself with his work without a care in the world. It's all about when to train, when to endorse a brand, and when to compete in a competition. It feels like a replay of my old life. I also once shone in the spotlight, received everyone's attention, and won first place in every competition. Because Olivia wanted to lead a low-key life after marriage, I chose to retire without any regrets. But all of this is in the past. I have been pushed far, far away by time. It's so late, and Liam hasn't gone home yet. If he's still here, I'm afraid people will gossip. Ethan's words seemed like a well-intentioned reminder, but there was no shortage of sarcasm in them. Olivia was feeding Leo soup and paused in her movements when she heard this. I looked up, hoping she would say something to keep me. However, the next moment she turned her head and calmly said, Liam, you're not needed here anymore. You can leave. Because I hadn't eaten, I slowly stood up and felt a bit unsteady. I had just opened the door and taken a few steps when I heard Ethan call out to me from behind. Liam, you forgot something. He handed me a silver wedding band engraved with Olivia Liam. It was custom-made for Olivia and me when we got married, and there was nothing else. I reached out to take it, but Ethan let go too soon and the ring rolled to the ground. I knelt down to pick it up, and he whispered in my ear that he would take good care of Olivia and our child. I held back my tears, walked out of the hallway, and lit a cigarette against the wall in silence. I looked up at the warm light of our home, and after stubbing out the last embers of my cigarette, I threw it into the trash can. I checked into a cheap hotel, and after tidying up, I dialed a number. The line was quickly connected, and I could tell he was very happy. Liam, you finally figured it out. I've been waiting for you. I gave a soft grunt, said a few simple words, and hung up the phone. Then I called my family doctor and asked him if donating bone marrow would affect my ability to exercise in the future. The doctor was a little surprised to hear this, but he just told me that although it is still unclear what the specific impact of donating bone marrow on the body will be, it is better to be careful. I held the phone tightly, as this was the last thing I would do for Olivia before I left. To be honest, Olivia was once a ray of light in my life. She was the team doctor of my training team, and she was always by my side when I was anxious from the pressure of competition. She was the one who encouraged me to overcome all kinds of difficulties and return to the stage. When I won the championship, I didn't care about the flowers and applause at all, and all I could think of was her. So when she mentioned getting married, I was willing to give up everything for her. Even after decades of hard training and countless tears and pain, it's nothing compared to her bright smile. No matter how mad she gets at me, the more I look at her, the more I like her. After all, she was the light that illuminated me in the darkness. But this time, she made me lose my way. Ding dong, my phone rang, and I received a message. I excitedly opened it to read, but it was a photo of her wearing very little. Olivia, who never usually dresses so revealingly, was lying in the same bed as Ethan in a somewhat intimate position. There was a sentence underneath. Liam, what are you going to do to compete with me? I felt very disappointed, closed my phone and started making an appointment for the medical examination for bone marrow donation assessment at the hospital in the next few days. Olivia, I'm done with this, and from now on, I won't owe you anything anymore. I hope that after I leave, you won't come back and tell me that you regret it. I tossed and turned in bed until dawn. When I finally fell asleep, I didn't stay asleep for long though, because my phone woke me up. I glanced at the time, 4:00 am. I answered the phone groggily. Olivia's voice was firm on the other end. She told me to come get her quickly, because Liam, Ethan, and Leo were going to see the sunrise in the Rocky Mountains. It would take at least 2 hours to drive there and back. Leo said in his childish voice, "Mommy, this driver uncle is not very good. Can we change him? I don't like him." I tried to calm myself and said, "Okay, I'll meet you in front of the complex in 10 minutes. Then I quickly got up, took a cold shower, and drank a cup of extra strong black coffee. Since I had already decided to give up, I might as well make the end of this perfect. 10 minutes later, I picked them up. Leo was playfully hugging her neck, and Ethan was carrying his mother's bag. It really looked like a happy family going out for a stroll, and I couldn't help but smirk slightly. It was still early, and we were going to the Rocky Mountains, out of town, and there were very few cars on the road. Ethan and Leo fell asleep. Olivia's voice was not loud, but every word she said felt like a life or death decision. "Liam, before you donate bone marrow, you need to go to the hospital for a full physical examination before the transplant process can begin. Don't blame me for not discussing this with you beforehand. Leo's condition is too urgent. I don't think you'd quibble over these things with a child." I concentrated on driving and simply responded, "Okay, I know. I'll just do whatever the hospital says." I didn't say anything more. Olivia seemed to have no doubts about me, and was completely taken aback by my attitude, but she quickly returned to her previous stern expression. When we reached the top of the hill, I accompanied them up. It turned out that Leo, who had wanted to see the sunrise, was fast asleep, and Ethan wasn't even awake. I felt a little bitter. This might be the first and last time I'll see the sunrise with her. Soon, Leo would have the bone marrow transplant. I went to the hospital early to prepare myself, and even the nurse next to me looked at me with pity. I calmly walked into the sterile ward and watched as the thick needle slowly withdrew the bone marrow from my body. My heart had become numb and I felt nothing. The Liam who loved Olivia with all his heart was slowly disappearing. When I was pushed out by the nurse, I saw Olivia cheering for him by his side like a mother. She said, "Leo, be a good boy. Mommy promises you that when you get better, I'll give birth to a little sister for you to play with, okay?" And the moment I passed by her, she didn't even look at me. I lay in the hospital bed, feeling weak, and the news that Ethan had won the gymnastics competition was being reported by all the major media outlets. In my circle of friends, Ethan posted a touching confession, thanking my lover, "Without you, there would be no me today." The photo was a close-up of the three of them. At that moment, I received a call, and when I connected, it went to voicemail and I heard a recording. "Ethan, don't worry, I'll get Liam to retire from the army and help you clear the way. Because in my heart, you're the only one who deserves all this. He's not even worth a dog." I endured the pain in my body, wrote the divorce agreement, and left without looking back. 10 minutes later, Olivia came to the empty hospital bed. The moment she saw the divorce agreement, she panicked. The head nurse said anxiously, "Olivia, little Leo is doing very well, but he has been crying and needs you to go and comfort him right away." At this point, the head nurse came up to Olivia, but Olivia pretended not to hear, just kept repeating in a low voice, "Liam, Liam, he doesn't want me anymore." "Olivia, Leo is crying. He wants his mommy. Please go quickly." The head nurse raised her voice. Olivia suddenly woke up, and the paper in her hand fell to the ground. She hurriedly turned around and walked away, but not in the direction of Leo. The phone number she dialed turned out to be a wrong number, and her WeChat friends were deleted. Apart from that, there was no other way to find me. Olivia leaned against the wall, feeling very empty and at a loss. Tears flowed down her face like broken strings of beads. I thought he would always tolerate my bad temper, but he chose to leave. On the day we went to see the sunrise, his mood did not fluctuate as it had before, and I thought he was just being mysterious. Unexpectedly, this was actually a sign that he was already disheartened and ready to leave. "Olivia!" Ethan ran over from afar, holding a bouquet of red roses in his hand, and asked her, "Look at this. Do you like it?" Compared to Liam, Ethan was indeed young and full of energy, and he looked very likable. Olivia just glanced at it, and her expression became even more painful as she crouched down. This reminded her of her misfortune in childhood. Her loving parents had suddenly fallen apart because of her father's infidelity. She only remembered that her father's lover liked red roses. But Liam would remember that his favorite flower was the white lily, which he used to fill her happy memories. Ethan saw her crying and asked in confusion, "What's wrong? Did Leo's transplant not go well?" Olivia wiped away her tears, tried to calm herself down, and said, "The results are good, it's just that they've been looking for me." "Then what's there to be sad about? Aren't you happy that I won today?" Ethan was very pleased and wanted to hug her and kiss her. "Don't do that." Olivia pushed him away and said, "Ethan, I've played along with you until now, so you should be satisfied." Ethan laughed in response and said, "Ooh, my little princess, why are you in such a bad mood today?" "Ethan, please, Liam is divorcing me now. I've done what I had to do. You threatened me with the kids and I gave in. Can I please leave now?" Ethan let out a derisive laugh. The guy who is lying in bed, his life hanging in the balance. Good riddance. He's not good enough for you anyway. I sent him intimate photos of us, and now I don't know where he is, crying his heart out. A loud slap hit Ethan in the face, and he opened his eyes wide in surprise. "I'll tell you, if he hadn't given way for you, do you think you would have had this opportunity today? What gives you the right to treat my husband like this? If it weren't for Leo, do you think you would have been able to see me again?" Olivia slammed the bright red roses onto the ground, and the petals crumbled like her heart had been trampled on. As soon as I arrived at the hospital's entrance, a black business car picked me up. In the car was Sophia, my coach and manager, who had always supported me and discovered my potential. Seeing me pale and weak, almost unable to walk, her voice was full of anger and concern. "Liam, what are you doing? Even donating your bone marrow? Have you thought about your future?" I found the courage to say this because it was Olivia's child. "Olivia, it's always Olivia. I told you not to marry her, but you wouldn't listen." Before I could respond to her next question, I fainted in the car. When I woke up again, my personal physician had just left, and Sophia had been waiting by my bedside the whole time. "The doctor said you're in pretty good shape, so you just need to rest and eat well, and there's a good chance you'll recover. Liam, don't think too much for now, just focus on getting better. There'll be plenty of opportunities to return to the sports field. We'll cheer together." I nodded, then closed my eyes again. Let yesterday's events remain in the past. The private medical and wellness club had a very nice environment, which made me a little uncomfortable after living with Olivia. In the few days since I left, Olivia had desperately searched for me, annoying all of our friends. She also went to places we had been together before in the hope of finding clues, but still had no news. As night fell, she finally felt exhausted and, after several days of searching, realized that I had really left this reality. When they arrived at the hospital, Leo was recovering well, but he was a little disappointed that he hadn't seen Olivia. He suddenly hugged Olivia and shouted, "Mom, where have you been? Are you unhappy?" Olivia started crying again, so Leo thoughtfully wiped her tears and asked, "Where did the driver go?" "Leo, tell your mom. Do you like the driver? Do you want to play with him?" Leo blinked and said seriously, "Mom, the driver is much nicer to me than Dad. Dad always leaves me alone in an empty house." "What do you mean?" Olivia asked in surprise when she heard this. Leo pouted and said, "Yeah, that house smells so bad. My eyes keep itching and hurting." Olivia felt very sad. She never imagined that Ethan would treat his own child like this, causing him to get leukemia. Before Olivia and Ethan graduated, they had an accident and Olivia became pregnant with Leo. She didn't really want the baby, but when she saw the tiny embryo on the ultrasound, she couldn't bear to get rid of it. But after the baby was born, Ethan took him away. At that time, Ethan had just entered the sports world, but he had always been at the bottom and unknown. When he saw me win the championship, he started to have bad thoughts. When I made headlines again for winning the championship, he hired a lot of online trolls to spread rumors and attack me maliciously. Instantly, the online comments became a mess, and at that time, I encountered this situation for the first time, and I was very angry. Just at this time, Olivia was arranged by him to be close to me as the team doctor, and everything seemed to be under his control. Sophia tried her best to convince me to continue, but I was determined to retire, and then Ethan successfully took over. In order to continue controlling Olivia, he deliberately made Leo stay in a room with formaldehyde for a long time, so that I would volunteer to donate bone marrow. In this way, he could be free from worries. But he didn't expect that in the end, I would give up Olivia of my own accord and pick myself up again. After I had rested for a while, the results still didn't meet expectations. Sophia, on the other hand, accompanied me abroad to recuperate and recover. Back in China, some gossip media and hype accounts would always publish news about me, and most of the headlines were teasing me. Something like this: "What happened to the former athlete who was willing to give up everything for love?" When I saw this, I would just laugh it off, because they had no idea how happy I was with Olivia. After I left the country, I disappeared, and even the media couldn't find me. Olivia had been trying to find me ever since I left without saying goodbye and signed the divorce papers, but she couldn't get any news about me, and she could only take care of Leo while seizing every little opportunity. Since Leo had the operation, Ethan had achieved his goal and stopped caring about Leo. Olivia had to take care of the child alone, go to work to earn money, and pay the mortgage, so life was very difficult for her. After a year, I was recuperating in Sweden, and my health had finally returned to normal. Sophia helped me arrange everything, including press conferences, brand endorsements, and competition entries. Just before the men's gymnastics competition, I saw Ethan at the competition venue. He was still as confident as ever, and seemed to care little about the people around him. When he saw me, he looked surprised, and then walked over. "Hey, Liam, long time no see. Can you still compete now?" I smiled slightly, without saying a word, just imagining in my heart the look of disappointment on his face after his failure. Unsurprisingly, when I stood in the familiar competition arena and looked at the familiar equipment, I felt like I was back in shape. The whole process went very smoothly, and it felt like I was flying. There were no surprises at the end, and as soon as I picked up the gold medal, all eyes were on me. Although there was no one I had ever expected to be there, it didn't matter anymore. I deserved better than that. Unlike me, Ethan not only failed to show his usual good form, but he actually performed very badly. At that moment, all the glory and honor that should have been mine returned. Time seemed to have gone back in time, and he was still the clown in the corner. Standing on the podium, I noticed that Ethan's face was very bad, and he was staring at me angrily. I smiled slightly and smiled even more brightly. After the competition, accompanied by Sophia and the bodyguard, I was about to get into the car when I suddenly heard a woman shouting next to me. I turned around and saw Olivia looking tired and disheveled, holding the hand of a small boy who looked rather dirty. I didn't respond to her and got straight into the car, rushing to the next location for the commercial shoot. It was late when the shoot was over, and the late autumn wind carried a hint of cold, so I wrapped my coat around me a little tighter. Unexpectedly, Olivia had followed me here with Leo, who was sleeping peacefully in her arms. When she saw me being wheeled out, she stood up hastily, not having time to attend to her child. The bodyguard next to her tried to stop her, but I gave them a sign to stop and let her come to me. Sophia looked at me with a worried expression. I just nodded at her. "It's okay, let's sit down and chat." Seeing Olivia and Leo in front of me, I felt like time had come to a standstill. She looked much older, the wrinkles on her face showing the hardships she had endured since I left. Perhaps people who are used to a comfortable life feel lost when they have a hard time. Before I could say anything, Olivia's voice trembled with tears as she said, "Liam, do you know, I've looked for you so hard." Leo shyly told me, "Uncle, we really missed you." I responded indifferently, "We're divorced, we're no longer legally married." She shook her head insistently and said, "I know I was very wrong, Liam, and you're still angry with me." I casually nodded and said, "Think whatever you want, I have to go." She grabbed my sleeve, her eyes filled with tears, and said, "Liam, my feelings for you are all true, sincere and not false. Have you forgotten all the days we spent together?" "Oh, is that so? So, getting me to marry you and retire was actually for the sake of the father of this child." Olivia took a step back in shock, her voice shaking a little. "Liam, that's not true." I took out my phone and started playing the recording, her voice coming through clearly. Olivia's face immediately turned white, and she tried hard to speak, but her words were incoherent. "Liam, you have to listen to my explanation. Ethan, he threatened me with Leo. I really had no choice." I sighed. "Olivia, I always thought we had no secrets from each other. Even if you had a child with him before, I was willing to take care of him as if he were my own, and I could accept you for who you are. But you easily gave away the thing I cherish most, and let my true heart be trampled on the ground." After saying this, I left, but Olivia was crying very sadly. On the way home, Sophia looked at my face several times, wanting to say something but stopping. I knew what she was worried about, so I volunteered to say it. "It's fine, I won't make the same mistake again." She felt much better, relieved, and said, "Liam, I was really afraid that you would go to her again without thinking about anything." I said coldly, "The next step is to double what Ethan did to him." Sophia suddenly smiled. "This is the ambitious and clever Liam I know." After returning, I once again became the focus of everyone's attention. With my talent and hard work, I quickly attracted a large number of fans. Perhaps because of the sudden failure, Ethan's mentality was greatly affected, and he still used improper methods to discredit me. This time, I didn't give him the opportunity. I quickly sorted out the rumors and attacks on him, and sent him a lawyer's letter. I warned him that if this continued, we would meet in court. He was quiet for a while, but still spared no effort to steal the limelight from me and prove that he was better than me. However, In the face of true strength, these petty tricks are just superficial decorations and bluster. His behavior, on the contrary, exposed his hypocritical side, and as a result, he frequently lost fans. Then, a series of chain reactions occurred, and people's opinions of him became increasingly negative, and the opportunities for endorsements became fewer and fewer, and his reputation became even worse. I just stayed in my position, watching the situation unfold without getting involved or pushing it. I just focused on my own business and remained cautious. Unexpectedly, the move that finally brought him down came suddenly. One day, a mysterious letter arrived at the studio. I thought it was a confession letter from an enthusiastic fan, so I just casually put it aside. Sophia came in to confirm this week's schedule with me and said that there was a reality show that wanted to invite me to participate. She specifically pointed out that Ethan had already agreed to go and signed a contract with the other party. I originally wanted to refuse on the grounds of causing as little trouble as possible, but I never expected him to openly provoke on social media. Liam, a real man, should accept my challenge and see who is better. I reluctantly frowned and decided to participate, but I will try to keep a low profile and don't want to cause trouble. Sophia patted my shoulder reassuringly and said something about evil deeds will come back to haunt you. At that moment, she saw the letter next to me, so she picked it up and shook it. Unexpectedly, a sound came from inside, sounding like something hard. We looked at each other and quickly opened the letter. Plugging the hard drive into the computer, the content that popped up on the screen surprised us both. It contained a detailed list of all the dishonorable things Ethan had done over the years, and the evidence was clear at a glance, which was truly shocking. Sophia and I silently exchanged a glance, and suddenly, I felt more certain about things. In this reality show, I decided to show the real Ethan to everyone and bring him down. At the beginning of filming, Ethan obediently participated in various minigames and interviews, as requested by the director. Later, he couldn't help but try to discredit me and started stirring up trouble. He first mentioned my divorce from Olivia, which attracted everyone's attention, triggered a lot of discussion, and made the headlines. Then, he completely distorted the story of my donating bone marrow to Leo, and slandered me as a bad person. At this point, Ethan was trying to provoke me and make me angry in almost every sentence on the show. The audience couldn't tell whether this was a deliberate effect of the show, or how they really got along. Online discussions suddenly became very polarized, with widely differing opinions, but I didn't come out to do any explaining, because I knew that if I couldn't hold back, all my previous efforts would be for nothing. So I kept calm until the director arranged a task where the athlete had to explain his own industry on the show. Before starting, I deliberately and accidentally opened the PPT prepared in advance, which was full of evidence of Ethan's guilt. The reality show was broadcast live, and immediately, some keen netizens discovered it all and left comments demanding a replay. Ethan's face had already turned ugly. Although he kept denying it, all the evidence matched the time, so it was true. The reality show was broadcast live, and it was an instant hit. As a result, Ethan was completely finished. Ethan's psychological defense collapsed, he couldn't handle the blow, and finally chose to commit suicide at home. As for the truth about my donation of bone marrow to Leo, it was also revealed. In fact, I just wanted to do a good deed. My popularity took another leap thanks to this opportunity, and I almost became a sports star known to everyone. In fact, I understand that apart from Olivia, no one else will be able to obtain such detailed evidence about Ethan. After all, Ethan is Leo's biological father, and Olivia's decision was really well thought out. After the funny incident on the live broadcast, I originally wanted to give her and Leo some money as a token of my appreciation. However, Sophia told me after investigating that Leo eventually passed away due to poor health. When I went to Leo's grave, I gently placed a bouquet of sunflowers in front of his tombstone. Olivia looked very frail. She gave me a silent look and whispered thank you. I haven't seen her since.